Welcome to Neural Nexus Podcast, where we explore the hottest topics shaping the world. Let's dive in.
All right, let's jump into this deep dive. We're going to be looking at Tanner McKee, this young quarterback who's making some serious waves in the NFL. You sent me over some really interesting articles about him, and I'm excited to dig in, especially into that unique decision he made right out of high school. It's a story that I think a lot of people are going to find really engaging. You know, who doesn't love a story of talent, dedication, and a little bit of, maybe destiny?
You know what I find fascinating about McKee is that his story really kind of breaks a mold a little bit. It's not just about raw talent, but it's the path he's chosen. It's not your typical straight shot to the pros that you see with a lot of these young players.
Okay, so let's rewind back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So McKee's journey starts in Corona, California, where he was born on April 27th, 2000. And it seems like, from what I've read, football was like practically in his blood from day one.
Absolutely. And that passion really took off during his time at Centennial High School, which, as any football fan probably knows, is known for producing some serious NFL talent.
Yeah, Centennial has a reputation for quarterbacks. But, looking at McKee's high school stats, over 7,000 passing yards and 93 touchdowns, those aren't just good numbers. Those are insane. So I'm curious back then, what was it about him that caught the attention of scouts? Was it just the stats, or was there something more?
Well, the stats definitely get your attention. But scouts, they look beyond just the numbers. With McKee, what really stood out even back then was his ability to just dissect defenses. He wasn't just throwing the ball, he was strategically breaking down the other team's game plan. You could see even then the makings of a quarterback with a really high football IQ.
And he already had that impressive, 6'6" frame physically, right? He must have been towering over everyone in high school. Did that physical presence combined with that, mental aspect of the game, did that create like an unstoppable force on the field?
It definitely gave him an edge.
Yeah.
That height allows you to see the whole field, anticipate plays, and deliver the ball with precision. But there's something else about his game that often gets overlooked, his mechanics.
Okay, you've mentioned this before. Polished mechanics. For someone who maybe isn't a quarterback expert, break that down for us. What makes his mechanics stand out?
Think of it this way. Great mechanics are the foundation of a quarterback's game. It's about being smooth, efficient, and consistent in your movements. McKee, even back in high school, he just had this natural understanding of footwork, release, all those little things that contribute to accuracy and power.
So it's like he was just instinctively doing things that other quarterbacks have to work years to perfect.
Exactly. And that natural talent, combined with his dedication to constantly improving his technique, really set the stage for what seemed like a very promising future.
It's like he was destined for greatness.
Yeah.
But then he makes this decision that kind of throws everyone for a loop. Instead of going straight to college, to the, bright lights of big-time football, he chooses a different path.
This is where McKee's story takes a really unexpected turn. He decides to serve a 2-year mission in Brazil for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that's a decision that raised some eyebrows, definitely sparked a lot of debate.
Yeah, it's not the typical path for a, top athlete, especially one with so much potential. Was there any concern that taking 2 years away from the game at such a critical point in his development might actually hurt his progress? 2 years is a long time in the world of sports.
There were definitely questions about how this unconventional path might impact his football career. Some people saw it as a risk, a potential setback. But others, and I'd include myself in this group, saw it as a real testament to his character and this unique opportunity for growth.
Okay, I'm really intrigued now. Let's dig into this mission experience. What were some of the specific challenges that he faced in Brazil? And how might those experiences have translated into resilience on the football fields? We're not talking about a relaxing vacation here.
Right. A mission is anything but a walk in the park. It's demanding. It's immersive. It pushes you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Imagine being dropped into a foreign country with a totally different culture and language.
Whoa, that's a major adjustment, to say the least. And I can only imagine the kind of discipline and adaptability that would require.
Exactly. McKee had to navigate unfamiliar territory, overcome those language barriers, and adapt to new ways of living and thinking. It was a constant challenge to step outside his comfort zone and rely on his resourcefulness and his resilience.
So, in a way, his mission experience was like the ultimate training ground for the mental toughness that you need in the NFL.
I think there's a strong correlation there. That ability to handle pressure, to push through adversity, to stay composed and focused in really difficult situations, those are qualities that are forged through experiences like McKee's mission.
It's almost like he unintentionally gained a competitive edge by choosing this less conventional path.
It's definitely a unique perspective, that's for sure. And it makes you think, how often do we underestimate the value of experiences that fall outside of that traditional path to success? McKee's story really challenges that idea that there's only one way to reach your goals.
It's like saying sometimes a detour can lead you to a more fulfilling destination. Okay, so after 2 years in Brazil, he comes back to the U.S., ready to take on college football. Where does he end up?
He ends up at Stanford University, a school known for its strong academics and its athletics, especially football. But it wasn't all smooth sailing for McKee at Stanford.
What do you mean? What kind of challenges did he face there? Was it the level of competition, the pressure of playing for such a high-profile program, or was it something else entirely?
Well, for starters, he was thrown right into the fire of the Pac-12 conference, which is known for its incredibly competitive football scene. This wasn't high school anymore. He was going up against some of the best college players in the country.
Yeah, that's a huge jump in competition. I can only imagine how intense those games were.
It was a trial by fire, definitely tested him in ways he hadn't experienced before, but there was another challenge that made his time at Stanford even more demanding.
Oh, you got to tell me more about this.
Yeah.
What was the other hurdle he had to overcome?
Well, Stanford at that time was going through a rebuilding phase with their football program. They weren't the powerhouse they had been in the past. So not only was McKee facing this top-tier competition, but he was doing it as part of a team that was still trying to, find its footing. Talk about pressure. Yeah, it was a tough spot for any quarterback, let alone one who had just taken 2 years away from the game. But you know what? McKee, he didn't let it get to him. He actually thrived under that pressure.
So even with the team in transition, he was still able to make a name for himself. Tell me more about his performance at Stanford. Did he live up to all that hype he had coming out of high school?
He more than lived up to it. His sophomore season at Stanford, it was really a showcase of his talent and his ability to really rise to the occasion. He threw for over 2,300 yards and 15 touchdowns. And remember, he was doing this against some of the toughest defenses in the country while leading a team that was still figuring things out.
Those are some impressive numbers, especially considering the circumstances. It sounds like those scouts who saw something special in him back in high school, they were onto something. But beyond the stats, what was it about his playing style in those college years that really made him stand out?
I'd say 2 words: poise and accuracy. Even when things got chaotic, McKee had this calmness in the pocket. You don't see that too often in young quarterbacks. He never let the pressure rattle him, and when it came to delivering the ball, his passes were consistently right on target, finding their way into those tight windows with incredible precision.
Okay, so we've got his ability to read defenses, his polished mechanics, his poise under pressure, his accuracy. It sounds like the total package. But every quarterback has their strengths and weaknesses, right? Are there any areas where McKee needs to improve or any potential downsides to his playing style that we should be aware of?
You're right, no quarterback is perfect. And while McKee has this really impressive skill set, there are definitely areas where he can keep developing his game. One area that people sometimes point to is his mobility. He's not really known for being a scrambling quarterback, the kind of guy who can escape pressure and make plays outside the pocket.
So more of a traditional pocket passer, relying on his arm and his decision-making to move the offense down the field.
Exactly. And while that can be a really effective style, especially with McKee's arm talent and accuracy, it also means he's a bit more vulnerable to sacks if the offensive line isn't doing its job and giving him enough protection.
I see. So while his strengths are definitely in his passing game, being able to develop that agility and ability to evade pressure could give him another weapon in his arsenal and make him even tougher to defend against.
You got it. And to be fair to McKee, he's shown that he's willing to work on that part of his game. He's been incorporating drills and training techniques that focus on his footwork and his movement within the pocket. So it's not a question of whether he can do it. It's more about honing those skills and making them a seamless part of his overall strategy.
That makes sense. It sounds like he recognizes that area for potential growth, and he's proactively taking steps to address it.
Right.
Which, when you think about it, is pretty consistent with his character, right? He's always been someone who rises to the challenge, never settles for complacency.
You nailed it. That dedication to constant improvement, that's one of the things that makes him such an exciting prospect.
Okay, so let's jump ahead to the 2023 NFL Draft. McKee's name gets called. What happens?
He's drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in the 6th round.
The Eagles. Wow, a team known for their strong quarterback play. I mean, they've already got Jalen Hurts, who's a proven star in the league. Was there any surprise, any speculation about why the Eagles would draft another quarterback, especially when they've got such a talented roster already?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there were definitely some raised eyebrows when that pick was announced. I mean, they didn't have an obvious hole to fill at quarterback, but the Eagles, their front office is known for being pretty shrewd. They must have seen something special in McKee, some potential that was worth taking a chance on.
So it was a move for the future, thinking long term rather than for an immediate need.
That's the general consensus. The Eagles, with their strong roster and playoff ambitions, they were in a position to draft a player who might not contribute right away, but could become a really valuable asset down the line.
Like they were playing chess, thinking several moves ahead.
Exactly. And for McKee, landing on a team like the Eagles with that winning culture and a stable quarterback situation, it was probably the best case scenario for his development.
Right, it's like the perfect apprenticeship. He gets to learn from a top-tier player like Jalen Hurts, soak up all the ins and outs of the pro game, and hone his skills without the immediate pressure of having to be the starter. Talk about a quarterback masterclass.
Yeah. It's an incredible opportunity. Not many young quarterbacks get the chance to learn from someone like Hurts, someone who's already reached that elite level. And from what we've seen, McKee is embracing that role, soaking up knowledge like a sponge.
So how did his rookie season go? Was he able to make any contributions on the field, or was it mostly a year of learning and observation?
Well, keep in mind, he was joining a team with a very established starting quarterback, so playing time was going to be limited. But he had some really impressive moments during the preseason games. He showed off that arm talent and his ability to lead the offense.
I've read that his preseason performance really got people talking, both Eagles fans and analysts alike. They saw those flashes of potential that we've been discussing.
He definitely made an impact, and those preseason games were a great opportunity for him to get a feel for the speed and intensity of the NFL, to really test himself against pro-level competition.
Like a trial by fire, but in a setting where the stakes aren't quite as high.
Exactly. And the feedback from the Eagles coaching staff has been really positive. They've been impressed with his work ethic, his football IQ, and how quickly he's adapted to the complexities of the NFL game.
It sounds like the Eagles are happy with their decision to draft him. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Jalen Hurts is their starting quarterback, and he's only getting better. Where does that leave McKee? Is he content to be the backup, or does he have his sights set on becoming a starter in the NFL?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, only McKee knows the answer to that. But from what we've seen, his drive and his competitive spirit suggest that he's not satisfied with just riding the bench. He wants to be out there, leading a team, proving himself at the highest level.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
But right now, he's in a situation where patience is crucial. He needs to keep learning, keep observing, and be ready for his chance when it comes, whatever that might be. It's a delicate balance between staying ambitious and understanding the reality of his current situation.
And to his credit, he seems to be handling that balancing act with a lot of maturity and grace. He's not out there complaining about playing time. He's focused on improving his game, learning from the best, and making the most of every single opportunity.
And who knows? Maybe that time he spent in Brazil, navigating a completely different culture, overcoming those language barriers maybe that prepared him for this very situation. That ability to be patient, to persevere, to trust the process, and to be ready when the moment comes.
That's an interesting connection, and it just goes to show how experiences that seem totally unrelated to football can actually shape a player's mindset and prepare them for those unique challenges of the NFL.
Sometimes those most valuable lessons are learned outside the lines of the football field. Okay, we've talked a lot about McKee's on-field performance, but there's more to a player than just their stats and skills. What's he like off the field? What kind of person is Tanner McKee?
From everything I've read and heard, Tanner McKee is the real deal. He's known for being humble, dedicated to his family and his faith, and genuinely wants to make a positive impact. He's not caught up in all the hype or the spotlight. He seems to have a really grounded perspective, which is refreshing to see in a young athlete.
It's always great to hear, especially in the world of professional sports where it's so easy to get caught up in image and ego.
Yeah.
Sounds like McKee has his priorities straight.
Absolutely. He's a reminder that success in sports, or in any field really, it doesn't have to come at the expense of your values or your integrity. He's proof that you can be a fierce competitor, a talented athlete, and a genuinely good person all at the same time.
Yeah, it's really inspiring to see a young athlete like McKee who seems to have such a strong sense of self, and such strong values. Makes you wonder if that groundedness, that commitment to something bigger than the game could actually be like a secret weapon for him.
That's a really interesting point. We often focus so much on the physical skills and the mental toughness of these athletes, but we sometimes forget about the importance of character, that inner strength that comes from having a solid foundation.
Like a mental anchor that keeps you steady when things get tough.
Exactly. And for a quarterback, that ability to stay calm under pressure, to make the right decisions when the game's on the line, that can make all the difference.
It's that intangible it factor, the thing you can't really coach.
Precisely.
Huh.
And while it's impossible to say for sure if McKee's mission experience directly translates to success on the field, it's hard to ignore how those challenges he faced those 2 years away probably shaped his character in ways that are benefiting him now.
Like he went through this unintentional mental boot camp, getting him ready for the pressure cooker of the NFL.
And it's not just about mental toughness, it's about perspective. Having experienced life outside of this professional sports bubble, immersing himself in a completely different culture, facing obstacles that had nothing to do with football, it probably gave him this broader view on life, a sense of gratitude that helps keep things in check.
So maybe those 2 years weren't a detour at all, but a crucial part of his development, a stepping stone that led him to where he is today.
I think that's a really strong argument, and it challenges those traditional ideas about what it takes to make it in pro sports. Sometimes taking that less conventional path can actually give you a unique advantage.
Okay, we've talked about a lot here, from McKee's high school days to that unexpected mission experience, the challenges he faced at Stanford, and now his current role with the Eagles. But looking ahead, what are your predictions for his future in the NFL? Do you see him as a future starter, maybe even a franchise quarterback, or something else entirely?
It's always tough to predict the future in the NFL, but I'll give it my best shot. Based on everything we've seen so far, his talent, work ethic, his character, and that unique journey he's been on, I think McKee has everything it takes to be a very successful quarterback in this league. Whether that means becoming a starter for the Eagles or finding success somewhere else, only time will tell.
True, the NFL is full of surprises, and careers can take some unexpected twists and turns. But one thing's for sure, Tanner McKee is a name we're going to be hearing a lot more of in the years to come.
I totally agreed. He's definitely a player to watch, someone with the potential to really leave his mark on the game.
And his story is a reminder that sometimes the most rewarding paths are the ones less traveled.
Absolutely. A story of talent, resilience, and believing in yourself.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Tanner McKee. We've looked at his journey, analyzed his skills, and considered his potential. But remember, his story is still unfolding. So to everyone listening out there, keep an eye on this rising star. You never know what exciting chapters lie ahead. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those questions that lead to amazing discoveries.